Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Global AI podcast. This is the second episode. I'm JK, and I'm also here with Selvi.
Hi, JK.
A little bit of fist bump here. And today we're going to talk about on how AI and data works. Just a second. I had a stream on the other side. On how AI and data works together with Leila Etaati. Now, Leila is a AI and data platform MVP, a data scientist, and co-organizer of BI and PowerBI Auckland user group. And also what we're going to touch upon is she is also organizing workshops on AI for women. So let's have Leila with us. Hi, Leila.
Hello. Hi, Leila.
Hi.
So how have you been doing in New Zealand?
Oh, good. Actually, it's sunny today, and actually, yeah, it's going well. How are you guys? Are you fine? How's happening in Brisbane and Sydney? I believe some is based in Sydney. Yeah.
Yes, I am. There's been a huge heat over the weekend, but it was good because we have Australian Day as well, and it was good time for going to beach and stay in the sun, get some tan.
Yeah.
I also had a great weekend. I had the first barbecue at my friend in the last year and a half, so it was a major milestone.
Oh my gosh! Hope it went well. Did it?
Yeah, it went really well.
Oh, that's great! Nice. Yeah. Cool. Really happy to be with you guys. That's great. I hope that I can see you again in person, but great still to be in touch in online, and thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thanks for accepting our invitation and joining us, Leila.
Yeah, we're really happy for having you here, and we have already a couple of questions for you to get started. So the first question we have, is it true that data fuels AI? And if it is, then how does it do that?
Oh, yes. Actually, yeah, data is really important for AI. And to be honest, so if you look at the data that we have, so we start from actually looking at what happened in the data in the past. So the first, before AI and other things, we were creating reports. So we look at the data that time to see what we done in the past in our organization and in any business. After that, we come up with the IoT technology and live streaming to see what currently happens. So we know what is happening in the past. Now we're looking on the data to see what we can see happening now. And the third trend is about, okay, so now we know what is happening in the past. We can actually find the pattern on that. And now based on that, we are going to do some benefits about how we can see future. So so yes, data is actually kind of for any AI and machine learning. We definitely need data, and AI really helps to get more insight out of the data.
Sounds good. It's like data, and then you think about everything else.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I guess everything drives from data. And with the data that we have, we can predict the future based on the historical data that we have. That's a very interesting point. But mentioning that, I guess nowadays the privacy has become a great concern for everybody. So when we talk about creating a data set for training or evaluation purposes, how do we ensure that we have that data integrity and the privacy in place for everybody to be in a peaceful minds, saying that, okay, our data is secure, we have data integrity in place so we can move forward?
Yes, exactly, Sami. So that's a really people worry about the AI, that AI can collect all of our personal or business information, and it's not really good. So we have a concept of ethics of AI or responsible AI that I think before setting up any AI application, they should be considered. There are a couple of principles that actually Microsoft recently also set up that principle in the name of responsible AI. So there are some kind of the ethics. So one of them, as you mentioned, is about the security. So that means that, for example, for a recommendation system to be more personalized, we need having more data from customer because we want to know them. So based on that, we recommend and provide some classification or clustering or whatever. And that should be actually, we should be commit about how we actually collect this data, and this data should be secure. So I think before actually setting any AI, we should be careful about these. Even for our prediction, there is a concept of the fairness and inclusiveness that we have in responsible AI. That's another one. That's so it shouldn't be like a machine. We should consider, we should include all of the people with a different kind of different type, from ethnicity, from gender, from other different things we should consider. So these are the things. Plus, as you mentioned, the important one is the safety and security of the data. We should plan for that. So it's not just setting the AI. It means that these AI should be kind of respect these things. Otherwise, it's not being, it's designed to be helpful, but if it doesn't respect that, is not really helpful for people.
So there are some sort of principle that we need to have in place in order to be able to build that solution, to follow that patterns and the policy and the privacy.
Yes, it is. So yeah, so we have fairness, inclusiveness, transparency, reliability and security, the safety. There are about 7 principles that actually before any AI setup, so people need to be careful about that and set it up and then start the actual AI, which is, I believe is good because, for example, we have a concept of transparency for the responsible AI. That means that most of people wants to know how this algorithm works, or is it works for them, how is going to save their data. So that should be transparent about that. So they need to know where their data is going to be saved. So, yep.
That's good to know.
Yeah, and on that note, I think what's an interesting problem we have with AI is there was examples in Europe, or was it in US, where a teenage girl was starting to get things for pregnancy, diapers and all of that stuff. And her father was like, what's going on? Why are you recommending all of that stuff? And what turned out is that the AI figured out that she was pregnant before she even knew, or what was, I think she might have known, but her father didn't. So based on just the patterns of buying, they could figure all of that out, which, yeah, I think, what do you think about not just the security of the data, but also the responses? Should we also watch on that, what we are giving back from the AI models to the people?
Yes, actually, you're right, absolutely. So that's become really scary. That is actually sometimes you want some limitation, you want to some boundary for that. So maybe it's not some of the aspects of your life. Maybe you want to be so secure. So we have also concepts of accountability. That means that it should be kind of connected to the cultural, to the rules that we have in our society. So as you mentioned, the example of the recommendation. Some pregnancy, package to the girl. So maybe it's kind of it's a limitation that we have in a society. So yes, and it's hard actually. To be honest, we're talking about to having that, but to be honest, if you think about that, implementing these things, besides to be actually a good AI, is a really challenging but needed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting challenge going forward. We're not just needing to think about the data security and how we store everything, making sure the models are fair and all of that. We also need to make sure how the end result is going to be perceived by the people. So, it doesn't help that you've done everything right if the answer that people get is something they don't like or find offensive. Even though it might not be offensive, it's just offensive in that particular case. So The next question we have is a little bit more developer-centric. So if I am a web developer or an old school IT support person, can I still learn about data and AI? And what's the best place for that?
So yeah, that's actually a new kind of so AI is kind of the new movement that we have in a data space. So before that, we have more of the job about storing the data. So we about managing the data, so administrative and also data management. After that, we come with the reporting and the next after that is about getting more insight out of the data. So for people coming from the as you mentioned, all the school background, this also possible. They have multiple choice. So because they are maybe good with the coding, so they can start with some of the data management, querying the data as a data engineering. And also, to be honest, these days, data analysis can be done by different type of people. If they know just the structure of the data, they can still do some data analysis. We do training in New Zealand, so we actually do lots of Power BI and AI training. One of our customer is actually he's a doctor, so he has a clinic, and because he wants to analyze the data that he got from his patient, and he wants to kind of do for his research and things. So he start to learn data analysis, so he start to learn data model, and based on that, so now he can do that for and definitely the next stage is about the data science. So I can start from data administrative to data engineering, query of the data analysis, and also after that is getting the more insight of the data as a data science. So these are the paths. So based on what they actually really interested, some people are more interested to become a more business oriented part. So they go into the data analysis, and that's it can be not a hard kind of process. Some people really loves the algorithm, so for them definitely knowing some machine learning algorithm, and as you know guys, learning R and Python is a way to doing that. So for each of them there is a specific learning path, and I think that's enough material we have in different websites, and just Microsoft website or the other website that they provide this information. So I think these days it's possible. So I have lots of friends that actually their background wasn't data, but they interested in 2 or 3 years they start their career in data, and it's possible.
Yeah, I kind of started a similar way. Like a couple of years ago, I didn't have much AI knowledge. Got something from school, but I did have to start with something like ML.NET. That got me jump started. I did TensorFlow and stuff like that, but ML.NET is really the one that got it started. All right, I think Sumi, you have also a couple of questions.
Yeah, following up to the comments that you were talking about, how to get to the usage of the AI, what is the best way to actually utilize the AI? There are some small business that struggle to find the right talent to apply AI into their solution to actually solve their problem. So I guess that's where the confusion is. They don't know where to start and how to apply AI to be able to solve the problem. You mentioned that they need to look at it, what they want to do with the data. Is this the business problem that they want to solve? Is it something else that they want to build? So I guess there's some struggle to find what is best for them. So what is your recommendation, or the best way that you think would be helpful for them to solve the problem or get them started?
Thanks, Ami. So yes, that's actually can be challenging for some of the business that actually they want to start with AI. One of them is about the cost of the employee, a data scientist. So because first of all, maybe they don't have that much data as an enterprise has, so that's one problem. Another one is about the actually some of them maybe they couldn't go for the like in some of the very algorithm that they need lots of data, like image processing or neural network and the other, but they still, For example, one of the use case that I can see in most of the small business that they can is about the anomaly detection. For example, in a small business, they see that there are some changes in the expense that they have, or they, for example, running a small business about accounting and help other people to take care of their account tax and the other. So they can apply that one to make sure that they really there is no very kind of anomaly in the tax or the other. So there are some use case scenario that they can use. Also, for this scenario, maybe it's expensive to hire a big team for doing the data science, but there are some pre-built tools for them that actually they can use them. So automated ML, actually the designer, and the other is for these people that they don't want actually to put lots of money to hire someone to doing that. So from different perspectives. So in some scenario they have lots of data, but it's expensive for them to hire someone, so they can use these pre-tools. Or sometimes they think that they don't have enough data for the image processing and prediction, but still there are some problems. There are some things that they can actually still solve that one. As I mentioned, like detection, the anomaly detection, or the using the knowledge mining, or like a sentiment analysis to understand how their customers feeling about them, and something like that. Yep.
That's great. You basically answered my second question, that for the companies that have thousands of records, what is the best way for them to utilize their data? And I guess the example that you mentioned, the anomaly detector, was the best way to handle that. And you said there are some preset tools that they can go ahead and start using, rather than hiring external resources to help them, which might be costly to start with. That's great. What else do you think that they can rely on out of the box kind of way before jumping into the ocean?
So the other one that actually we can say is about one of the challenge that I can see actually is about most of this company doesn't have a good data. So when they're talking about doing AI, and you also may face, because you guys also doing lots of AI, you're going and see that the data that they have is not really good data, doesn't have a good quality data, format is not good. So we couldn't really get inside. I have experienced that I face a customer is a medium to small, and they have about 5 million records of data. So they said, yep, they have a good bunch of data, so let's start. And after I analyzed the data with some actually that SQL and also Power BI, we come up with just very small rows of the data, because we couldn't use the data entry has problem. So I think the first step is about to make sure they have a good data, and after that they can see that what sort of business problem they have. So some of them like this, or for example, most of the AI part, like cognitive services, can be applied for this small business. So when we're talking about AI, people are always go to the prediction. So no, it's not just about that. So anything related to AI, related cognitive services, knowledge mining, text analytics, voice can be also applied. So it shouldn't just be prediction.
That's great to hear. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, most of the clients that I have for AI, we also first look at the cognitive services, and then building up toward machine learning. So we don't go, the hardest solution right away. And even with machine learning, we go first the simplest frameworks for the deep learning. All right,
that's a good approach, actually. Yep.
We have a good question from, I might butcher the name, Mustayab. I might have butchered the name, sorry about that. Is Azure AI certification the right way to start? So he seems to be working at CRM, and he wants to get into AI, and is that the right approach to get started?
Okay, yeah, sure. I think the Azure AI, actually we have a couple of exam, but also beside that we have some in Microsoft they have some learning path. So yes, that's a really good start. The Azure AI fundamental and also Azure fundamental, both of them can be a really good start for people who are new to these stuff and they just want to explore. So I remember because I'm running a workshop for women for motivate them to actually to become part of this, and there are some actually women that they want to have their own company, and they are not programmer, but they want because they looking for some idea about AI and kind of their project kind of related. So when they attend this course, they just understand what is happening. Even mean that even for people who are not in this space is a really good start. So definitely I recommend to do that.
Question on the training, the foundation exam, how much is it? I guess it's a split between AI knowledge and machine learning knowledge. Is it the case, or should we focus more on AI side than machine learning?
So actually both of them. So there is an exam actually. I'll share the link, link after this. I can share that. So it's kind of the both of them as you mentioned. So it's part of the machine learning concepts about the what is the machine learning and what tools we have. So that's the one. Another one is the AI part. That's back to the kind of the vision, the image processing, that actually language understanding, and also creating the bot. So it's kind of cover the both and provide a very, very basic knowledge of how they are works and how we can have them in a real scenario for them. So I totally recommend to start from that.
That's great. And you mentioned that you're running some workshop for women, for the women who wants to get into AI as well. So
yes,
I guess
exactly.
share more about that with us as well.
So that's a new project. Actually, we run for the APAC, for the Asia Pacific part. So to be honest, we don't not just between women. In general, we do have few people in AI in Australia, New Zealand. At least in the Microsoft part, we have few one. So there's an encouragement to kind of start from a learning path. So to show them how it's easy. So yes, I'm running a couple of in person in Auckland, but also we plan to have some based on the time zone of New Zealand, Australia in the online one. So definitely, and it's a free one. So kind of everyone interested and wants to kind of participate in this exam, they can welcome. And it's about the 3 days. So we kind of going through the whole of the scenarios about the learning path and everything.
That would be great if you share. We don't have that much of a difference time between Australia and New Zealand, so I guess many of us would love to join as well. So please share that link with us later on.
Sure, I will definitely do
that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, and we should connect so we get more workshops and more people involved so that we get a new generation of AI experts from New Zealand and Australia.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I hope so. Really looking forward to that, because even you guys also running a user group. Even for our user group, we struggle to find people who are speaking. So I think it's a good motivation. People come, and I think maybe people think, because the name is a bit scary when you talk about AI and ML. So people maybe don't feel that they can be matched. But it's good to kind of help them that, hey, it can be start, as you mentioned, break by break. So start from easy to the next level and the less. So kind of help them to kind of join us in this community.
Yeah, that was my first impression when I heard about AI, even though I had a little bit of technical background as well. But my first impression, it's going to be very difficult for me to start learning. But there was lots of material on Microsoft website, as well as other places that gets you enough information to start building. And with those tools that are available, it was very easy to try out your ideas and see how those services works. I found it very easy to get into it. So although the name may sound scary or challenging, but it's not the case. I had the same feeling, but now I don't.
Yeah, totally understand. Also, I can mention add to that. Actually, I'm same as you guys. I'm kind of for the AI. I'm a self learner, so kind of start from R and other machine learning. Uh, and as you mentioned, when I going to a customer website, sorry, customer site, I mean that in person, and if I want to show them R or my Python code, they just just freak out. So I always looking for a business side, so kind of better to showing them. About a year or 2 years ago, I come up with the Power Apps and Microsoft Flow, and I love them actually because that's actually helped me to kind of show the use case of the AI to the customer with the app. So I start to create. That time we don't have AI builder before the AI builder generation, so I use the combination of Power Apps and Flow to connect to the cognitive services. For example, create an app for face recognition or image tagging. And when you show this kind of applicable, people don't look like a, just don't look at algorithm. They see the real things in a very
Tangible
easy.
result.
Exactly. And they kind of, okay, now we can have AI. So, and that time is a bit hard to work with a Microsoft Flow, at least for me, because I'm not a Office 365 person. That much, I'm SharePoint and the other, I'm not really expert on that. Is a bit hard for me that time. And after that, the AI builder comes, I feel really good. That's one that people feel that, okay, they can move that. So some tools like cognitive services, AI Builder, they are really good tools actually for starting with the AI. And later on, people get motivated to go under that. So, what's the algorithm behind that? I want to know more about neural network. I want to know about how to, hyper tuning and the other stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Power BI because before Power BI had the AI stuff in it, what I showed to people is Postman, which essentially is just you put in URL, you put headers in, and I'll show, hey, I'm going to give you a demo of how to make facial recognition in Postman, which basically mean everything you see, you can replicate it. Just don't take my tokens.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh, wait, you just do that and that and that. And then at a later point, I didn't even bother showing most of the stuff because I just told them, look, they're literally links. And you're literally just sending JSONs. I'm going to tell you what you can do with it rather than going through all of that, because the most interesting part, at least I think, is what you can do with AI. And I could give you a question regarding for people that you consulted with and taught how easy or hard it is to give people imagination what they can do with AI and how you can help them get to use cases.
So it's actually, yeah, that's a different thing. So it's for companies. So for example, for an insurance company, we start to creating some actually AI with their data. So I remember it back to 2016 actually. So I start to actually, that's a first they first experiment with the AI. So I start to do some prediction with the R and Python, but again, I see that they couldn't understand. I used the Azure ML Studio that time. Now we have Azure ML Designer. So I don't explain the process through that. So I didn't done the job with the Studio, but I explained the process with that. And because it's easy to understand, so they kind of accept that project, and we go. And so yes, we use, to be honest, we mainly use the R for that project, but actually we can motivate them. So it's a bit hard for people first to accept to AI because it's like a black box for them. They couldn't trust it. As you mentioned in the first of the session about personalized data, or is it really good, can help them, is it good evaluation. So it's very hard at the start, but yeah, always kind of starting very simple approach, I think is works. Hope so.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things that I found is basically just show them and let them experience what they can do with AI. They are always thinking about prediction, always thinking about maybe just a classification, but or facial recognition. That's usually the very common one. That's like, we don't need facial recognition. It's like, it's a little bit more than that.
Yes, you're right. So yeah, that's the thing. So yeah, people just some, or for example, there was another example about there was an oil company that actually they want to use the object detection for the kind of finding the layer of the, you know, the layer of the soil. So they have different colors. So how we can do that? So they are really interesting things. So the only thing is about just talk to them and help them to, as you mentioned, it's not just facial recognition or prediction. We can do other things, object detection, classification, many things other that we can do with AI. So I think there is important that we have a good discussion with them to find out what other problem can be solved actually using AI.
Sounds good. So I'll just pick up the next question so we can move along with the list, and we are going to be able to just freeform the podcast. So for instance, we have a startup or we have a small business. How can we find some AI talents that could help us make the solution, and how can we find the right people for making solutions?
So I think community, always the answer is be part of the community. So that's the best part, to be honest, because that's a community as well as you have actually a user group and also global AI. Be part of this community actually help you to be in touch with it, people with the different skills. For example, JK is great on ML.NET. Also, Somi works. So you see that, you say, okay, I have a project on ML.NET. I need to kind of have a consultancy with a JK. Or again, I want to know algorithm, so I can go to Somi and ask her. So that's the kind of the solution that actually we have. Or for example, I mainly work with the AI in Power Platform. So they have, so this be part of the community is not just about, it's good for learning, definitely, but also is a really good network that people can know that who work, because it's not possible to be kind of expert in all of the areas. All of us have a bit focus on that, and that's kind of help. And to be honest, I think even for the finding people that they are graduate, they have some understanding of machine learning, and with the help of the some of the course that actually help them to bring the understanding of the machine learning to the real world, also can be, that's become a cheaper solution, because some small company, they couldn't afford for example a data scientist, the salary actually for them, and they definitely they can hire a graduate that they are ready to go, and they just need some upskill with a new products, and I think they are totally talented and they are really motivated to doing that. So yeah, there are kind of different things, but definitely community. I always said really kind of precious to have these communities in AI, in Power Platform, and also in SQL. I really love these communities.
Yeah, I think the community is allowing us to actually solve a lot of problems. If not solving that and finding the right person, they might actually push you in the right direction. Maybe you can use existing developers and they just need to learn a few things, like maybe cognitive services, and you might not need an expert.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
I found it in user groups, when you talk to the audience, they may raise some points from their point of view or the experience that they have within their organization or company, which actually gives you some ideas how to solve your problem. And with these discussion, I guess people can exchange ideas and thought, and I found it very valuable to join and be part of the community. And I guess it's win-win for both sides as well. And now that you were mentioning about Power Platforms and how much you like Power Platforms, and you also mentioned that there was a time that there was no AI builder feature in the Power Platforms, and you had to showcase different way to let the customers see how they can leverage on the AI services. So now with the added feature of AI Builder to Power Apps as well as Power Automate. What is your thought on that one? How it can add value to build up a solution more quicker, and also let a non-technical user to be able to leverage on those features? What is your thought on that one?
Yes, yes, I really, to be honest, from the start of the AI Builder, I kind of monitor that. So every component, I just follow them. And I see that's lots of improvement. I remember there was actually at the start, they have a form recognizer that actually use the behind the scene, use the form recognizer in cognitive services. And I use it for the our sequestrators at that time. So for the speaker evaluation, we put the paper so people can write, because to be honest, some people forgot to fill out the online evaluation. So we kind of force people to evaluate people. And for that time, I remember it doesn't recognize the checkbox and some of the handwriting not clear. But I tested again about a year, about 6 months ago, and I found it is much actually improved. Or it's the same for example, they have a service for the business card reader and also for the invoice reader. So that's a kind of the very normal things that every company has, and they want to, for the invoice, they need that, and is now these days is much more accurate. I see the improvement on that, and to be honest, I think they are the AI system that become a normal for each company. For example, for myself, I use that one because when we go into conference, you meet some people. Some people gives you the business card, some through LinkedIn, some business card. And what I do actually, I use that application, scan their name and email, and directly going to add to my Outlook, and I have their number and everything. So actually, I just scan that and give it back them the business card, and that's a kind of the simple solution that every company has. So I really love AI Builder, kind of connect the app and the AI part really good to each other. I'm looking forward to see more features on that.
That's great.
Yeah, I worked a little bit with, I think I have some double up. Oh, okay. I had some echo thing. Yeah, I use a little bit with the form recognizer, a custom form recognizer, and finally enough, when you mentioned feedback, I was attempting to make a form recognizer that recognizes the feedback users have written on the paper. And what happened was everything worked except for the most important part, which were the radio boxes, check boxes. And that wasn't supported at that time. And yeah, this is where then it goes to crazy technologies where you start using vision API, trying to train what is checked, what is not checked. It's very interesting, but yeah, for just recognizing the form, that was like 1 hour.
Yes.
I guess it's very easy to set up. It's because I believe it's a wizard-based kind of solution for the people that doesn't have like all the technical background to be able to implement a robust solution. That wizard and the user-friendly interface, I guess it's really make it very easy to pick up. And I'm keen to see how it will pick up the handwritten documents, because I've got not so much very well handwriting, so I'm keen to see how I can read my handwriting. I have to give it a go.
Yeah,
it can train itself based on my handwriting to make it more accurate.
Yeah, I try handwriting. I'm also terrible at handwriting. Always when I fill it out the form, I need to explain what I write. So
same here.
But yeah, it was not bad. 70% is actually able to detect my handwriting, which really good actually.
That's good. So I'm sure it has improved since then, because as you mentioned, the model improves itself over the time.
Yes, yeah. So
we just had Arafat for a little bit. Yeah,
he's keen to join.
I had a little bit experience with the handwriting and how accurate it is. I had hundreds of feedback from people, and it was actually pretty decent. So at the time that it didn't recognize, what I noticed is that even myself, I was struggling, and I always could see why it wasn't able to recognize. Like if there's an I that then somehow could get converted into L, or they corrected things, or things were too close and stuff like that. That's what that's where it can quite recognize. It tries to do the best guess. But the worst thing that I have noticed is if you have dots for the line, it thinks it's actual dots. It doesn't think it's the line. So I hope that's going to improve in the future. And when I mentioned before about checkboxes, they released it a few months after I did my talk about all of that, and after I did all of the work. So I need to go back and see if they have released that feature, I think. So I need to go back and see how that works, if I can just throw away 100 hours of work on training custom vision.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Got another question on the AI builder. Is it available for all region and environments, or is still in preview?
Some still kind of general available, but some of them still on preview. I need to check. I'm not memorized all of them, but I think object detection is available for everyone. The prediction also, I think, is available. Business card reader, I think, is general available, but there are some of them still there. So need to check, but some still in preview. So.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, come.
Yeah, and I remember previously we talked about exams, and I heard that you have finished one of the AI exams. Do you have any tips and tricks for anyone who tries to do them?
So, to be honest, the first one is read question properly. That's the first one, because I think some of the questions always you come up with always is multiple choice, or is about choosing 2 or 3 options, so you do not need to write anything. They never ask you to write a code, but I always struggle with the understanding of the question, and the answer is hidden in the question, and you come up with a 2 choice that actually both of them work, but one of them is better than the other. So kind of is so to answer, one of them is good, another is better. So you should go to the better one. So I think the best things that I can advise is kind of for these type of questions. So that's AI exam for the AI fundamental has about 5 modules. So one of them is responsible AI, talking about that how we can be responsible regarding the AI. So that is the first part. Then is going through the Azure ML Designer and automated ML. So that's another question, and also some fundamental questions about what is regression, what is classification, and clustering. So these type of questions. And then to the custom vision, from image classification to image tagging, and how to how to deploy it and something like that. And also a bit about sentiment analysis, keyword extraction, and finally about Azure Bot, so control version AI. So these are the topics that's going there. And they are kind of the learning path that I sent to you, the link actually is the things that they are going to talk about that. So I think if someone going through the whole of the learning path and doing the whole of the workshops, they can easily understand that how it's good. Also, there are some knowledge deck at the end of each part that's so similar to the exam questions. So I think I love that learning path, to be honest. Is a really good document for learning these exams. It's really fluent. I think there is no error on that. So if someone step by step they can follow. So that's a good one.
It's a great starting point, I believe. So you mentioned about knowing there are some parts regarding to ML Studio. Do we need deep technical knowledge on how ML Studio works, where things are, how to deploy, or the high level knowledge would be suffice?
So it's not going through the very kind of the writing Python or R or deployment to, for example, as a Azure DevOps or the other. It's just going to create a web service at the end of each section for Azure ML Designer and Azure ML automated ML, and then there is a written Python code that you just put your actually your endpoint key and the endpoint URL there, and it's going to work with that. So it's not it's not about the algorithm nature. It's just about the very general idea.
Good to know. So it's not that scary then.
No, it's not this. And even it's written that, for example, there is a Python code there. They said, yeah, it's complicated, but don't look on that. Just put the code. It's funny that in the middle of the actually workshop is written that. I really was interested.
Yeah,
It's good to hear.
I think it's more important that you understand what you can do with AI and how to be responsible than essentially trying to figure out all of the algorithms. And I actually have still two questions about the exam. One is exam available online?
Yes, exam happen online, and these days there is actually Microsoft provide a discount for this exam that is about originally it is $100 US, but now is $15 US because for people who affected by COVID. So, for example, so everyone kind of like lose their job or their salary goes down or infected in some way, they can use that one. So this actually help to people. So in this kind of in the COVID area, they can actually upskill themselves and become part of the kind of job market. So and also it is online. This happen online, is not in person, and so same as the other online, you should be in a empty room with an empty desk. So you just allowed to have some papers, no written things. So yeah, it's about 90 minutes with about around 50 questions.
Yeah, and yeah, I've done some of the not the tests, the exercises that you sent, and I can tell you for the viewers that haven't and listeners that haven't tried this yet, one of the learning items, you can actually create your own Azure instance and try out things right there, which is like, I was like, good job. I don't even have to pay anything to learn all of that stuff. So maybe that I'm a little bit answering the question for you is basically you don't have to have an Azure subscription to try to learn all of that, which I think it's really good. Even though you get on free Azure, I think you get some free credits, and even after that expires, you still get free access to most of the cognitive services. All right, so have a little, I'll just take over another question. So we have talked about workshops earlier, and how do you organize them? What workshops do you do? And do you have any suggestions? For instance, if we want to learn for AI, which one would you suggest us to join?
Oh, so I'm a person that I need to read myself. So one of my way to learning is about teaching. So I'm learn to teach. So I'm that person. So that's actually, I'm really looking for some of the documents that are available. So I can, most of the time I'm going to the Microsoft documents and the other weblogs that the MVPs, right? So that's my main learning resources. About the workshops, so they are actually different. It depends on what sort of the workshop people want. So if they're looking for the algorithm side, so there are are some like Data Camp and Kaggle and the other, that's really they are good in the algorithm side. But if they want to go to the technical side, so that's a different. There are lots of MVPs that actually run the workshops there, and so yeah, there are many resources actually. One of the free resource that we have is Udemy, that actually I think they provide lots of really good material to learn. EDX, so there are plenty actually.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I think we should get some links to your workshops so people can have a look at all of the workshops. And one maybe a personal question. I also do some workshops online, and with all the COVID craziness and restrictions and stuff like that, how can you handle with all of organization, talking to people and things like that?
So we actually we previously we run courses, sometimes in person. We travel to Australia and other countries. So about a bit before COVID happened, actually we start our online academy. So we create all of the things that previously we teach in person. So most in Power BI or Azure or any about I think now these days we have more than 50 different courses that actually we have. So all of them we start to records, and we see more people actually going through that. So we create a kind of a small academy through that, and I think people are now kind of really more interested to attend this type of the course and doing that. So I think it's kind of changed the culture of the learning. You see that we have lots of conference happening now. So before that, maybe people are not that much interested to attend conference online, but these days is a norm. And I think that after the COVID finished, maybe it's hard to get people to the in-person conference because they already use, as you mentioned, that they can sit at home and kind of, they're doing their job. So it's hard to now to get them there. So I think people are more compatible with the online training and online conferences and workshops. So now these days, I think it's a good move that if anyone wants to create a workshops or doing things, now I think people are more interested into the online actually workshops or any events.
And you find people. Sorry, just one last question. And do you find people that learn through online workshops better or physically?
It's different, to be honest. So in the online one, you couldn't have, there is some limitation on the space. So because you need to, for example, sometimes you need to connect to their desktop and help them through if they got challenges. So you should have a limited number. And also I found that in-person, it's possible to have 8 hours long workshop, but in the online one, it's become really boring for people to 8 hours sitting. So in the worst case scenario, it should be just 4 hours a day. It shouldn't be more than that because it's become a bit boring. And finding a way to kind of keep people just more kind of at some fun things, and because people may easily distracted when they sit on the computer. So that's a challenge actually we have. But in the other side, they are beside their family, they are at home, so it's much more convenient.
Sorry about that. I was muted. So yeah, that's all good. Like, I hope anyone who's organizing workshops or wants to attend workshops and they're like, should I go online or not? Should they wait for COVID to go away and go physical events? I hope that gives them some guidance that, hey, maybe online is good. So I think I have exhausted some of my questions, so I'll go to Somi for more questions.
Good discussion and conversation. I guess with the whole pandemic, we kind of learned to adapt with the new situation. And I guess with the online workshop and online training, I guess the community is doing pretty well. And I guess the audience is kind of got on board as well with that. I know, as you mentioned, their training and see how the students are tracking might be a little bit challenging, but I'm sure you said there are ways that you can kind of see how they're tracking and make sure that they're progressing well. with that, the women AI training that you mentioned, I'm sure that it's online as well, right? So you can reach a broader audience as well. Because I am personally keen to get onto that workshop. I'm sure there are other people that online that they want to join as well, and we cannot travel because of the whole pandemic. So,
Oh, thank you. That's good. Yeah. I hope that I'm in touch with actually with a person that's in APAC. So definitely we want to have it soon for women, and also we got some requests from men that hey, we want to also attend. So hopefully we can have
no. It's only for women.
Yeah. So yeah, let's see. Finger crossed we can have. Yeah.
We're gonna improve our gear power. So
we'll watch from the sidelines. Well, we won't talk anything. We'll just watch and silently learn.
That's good.
So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Do we have any other question from the audience, or let me just quickly check? Yeah, there were questions.
Yeah, I don't
there were questions on the exams.
Yeah, just touching upon all the online thing and COVID. I think it's like a blessing and a curse at the same time, because now all of a sudden you can attend a conference in US. I mean, you have to be awake, but also on the other side is like you don't have to pay thousands of dollars to get there, and then basically just for the hotels and plane tickets, just to learn new things. I think now it's a really great thing, a really great time to learn new things. A lot of things are being free. Like you mentioned, you've done a lot of workshops. I hope that you'll send all of the links to us so that we can share those links. And I believe all here in Australia would be happy to have you on our user groups and other events. So I hope that we'll see more of you around this area. And I hope that we'll also be able to get on your side in New Zealand. And I think right now we do not have any questions. So do you have anything to add before we finish, Leila?
Oh no, actually, I'm really excited about this chat and really looking forward to what you're doing. This really interesting is kind of help us to be in touch with each other and know the other people in the AI. So thank you for setting up this interesting kind of the podcast. And I hope that we can actually travel again. But yes, that's as you mentioned, for us also we travel a lot. It's help us actually to be a bit safe, not traveling that much and attend the other conferences. But in the other side, we really miss friends like you guys. So hope so this COVID finish and we can travel and we can meet each other.
Definitely. All right. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, and with that, we conclude our Global AI podcast. I hope we'll see you soon. You can listen us on podcasts. You can listen us on YouTube and also see us. And I hope we'll see you next time. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.